trained on diverse dialects, so that right it can be used for audiences all across globe. They support 100 plus language, speech to text conversion. So what are the use cases? So now people are doing real-time translation without using a translator. So again, you can see this use case also might be considered that it will lead to job losses. These kind of things, even though it's being used or is being sold as something that will improve productivity, what are the implications? So you can create an app that will help people translate in real time when you are traveling. Somebody says something, you have the app on, it listens and then it translates, and then you say something and it translates in the other language right away. So that's the use case. So you can use these tools to create your own model, and I'll maybe talk about a couple of popular like use cases. And I mean, I've selected industries, but you can think of these use cases in your own field of expertise, right? For example, in uh, industry and manufacturing supply chain sector, the model that companies are building using the existing tools, these are the use cases that I could think of. And there are some examples, for example, automating design and prototyping, then predictive maintenance. So predictive maintenance is becoming a big thing because if you're talking about infrastructure that's being used by public, it's quite costly, both in terms of real cost as well as the opportunity cost of that particular infrastructure being out of service if you have to maintain it after things go bad. So finding out what could go wrong, right? What parts need replacement before it breaks down is quite important. So that's one of the use cases there where they look at the images of the bridges and find out is there a crack developing, rather than somebody manually monitoring and then them missing out on a particular infrastructure. You can see that that's a very like simple to use case where you basically have cameras at the particular like locations and keep monitoring them, and then if there is a anomaly detection, then you can see that something is going to go down. So right, it could be used to find out when the particular machine needs repair or it needs servicing. And these are the real world examples, and then you can create your own, right? If you are in research and trying to think about some use cases, you can use these models, build your own models and apply it to one of the other use cases. For example, Siemens and NVIDIA have factory automation. They are working on it, creating simulations. BMW and Autodesk. Amazon has a model for logistics. So they're doing route optimization and warehouse automation. So what are the benefit? Again, production cost by designing. So you are basically removing human. So most of the models have two types of capabilities. One is something that humans can do, and it makes them do faster by saving time. There's another type of capabilities that is like not very prominent yet, and there is something that humans can't do yet. So this is something that will come out later as models become more advanced and you get more and more like training data into it, where things that humans can't even do and AI models can do. That will be the inflection point, and this is something that worries policymakers a lot. That will there be a point when companies have an incentive not to hire somebody and buy a model? That is something that is not there yet, but it could happen that AI models can do things that humans can't do. Right now, all they are doing is something that a lot of humans can do, but they can do it at a lower cost. So this is why increased efficiency by AI-driven predictive maintenance. So humans can also look at the photo, or they can actually visit the site and look at the bridge, or they can look at the machine and say it needs repairing. But AI can do it by predicting that it's going to happen by looking at the feed from a camera. So what is the benefit? That you don't have to store all the parts. You can order parts on demand. So these are the kind of benefits that this use case offers. Then since many of you are in academia, I thought that I would introduce this as a use case. So you can have AI assisted research papers generation and summarization. Then drug discovery. So this is where a lot of work is happening, especially with the grants from NIH in US, that like protein structure prediction. Can you map it to a particular kind of requirement? If you have a particular disease that you want to target, particular bacteria, so you can use AI to fast pace it, as well as there are some capabilities that are in AI models which humans will take a lot of effort to get the same kind of predictions. Then grading. So this is a use case that a lot of companies are working on to create tools for helping professors or instructors automate the grading part. So you have papers. One of the most difficult part is if it is not objective, how do you assign grades to that? So then, I mean, one way is ask them to submit PDF file and AI will grade it. So you'll have criteria defined. It will tell you, okay, this is the score on each of these rubrics, and this is how much should you grade if you accept, or you can modify that. So that kind of thing is coming into. So this is one of the like a useful use case in academia. So some of the examples, DeepMind has AI protein, like protein structure using AI models. IBM also is working on like Watson was the model that beat the chess champion. And after that, they kept on improving that model, and they are applying it to different use cases. One of the applications they are developing is Watson Discovery, a literature review for academic researchers. And like Google Notebook, I talked about it, how you can develop your own mini model by using Google Notebook, but they have it for like just like Google Scholar, you can actually use it for document analysis. So what are the benefits? Again, you save time. There's a lower probability of making mistake, but the another flip side is unknown unknown. So what if you miss something, right? So what happens with Google Scholar? You see all the result, and you have ability to scroll through that and go to next page, look for something. In this one, somebody else is making a decision for you. So you wouldn't know what is out of sample error kind of thing, right? That's something that you have to be aware of. You might be missing out on something that Google or the model doesn't think is important, and it's not showing it. Then generative AI in government and policies. So policy making and legislative analysis. So you have these huge documents that come up as a bill. So like as a decision maker or as a somebody who's going to vote on it, you can summarize that document. Then it's citizen services. So for example, like let's say a person wants to find out which kind of benefits I can get from government of India. So you say I am in this state, which policies apply to me, which benefits can I qualify for that? You can have just like ChatGPT, you can have ChatGOI, government of India, all the schemes. You tell your situation, it will tell you what kind of citizen services are available for you. These kind of. Then government is also working on like this thing, fraud detection, it's cyber security. So this is another useful use case, especially when it comes to government, because they are the ones who are going to maintain security in virtual world or in this digital world as well. And that is something that most of the government is still lag. So there are companies and researchers helping governments catch up on that aspect. So like this one example is Department of Defense, Project Maven. And if you know that there's a big company called Palantir, I mean, this is one of the CIA's biggest supplier of software. So they also use this data analysis on finding out what is happening. You are like recording all the chat from phone and social media conversation and these kind of things. And they try to assign a probability or try to infer what is going to happen. Is there a particular credible threat? And these kind of models are existing in at least in developed countries, but maybe even in India, the government might be working on some of those models to find out, like analyze the document for intelligence insights. Then this is the example I gave, government AI chatbots. You can automate public service rather than somebody going to an office and finding out you need these documents. You can just have an app that says, okay, I'm going to apply for a passport, what do I need, these kind of things. So they don't have to go through the website and read the everything. It gives you what it means to you for a particular query. And Singapore has a project called Smart Nation AI. So what are the benefit? You have faster decision making, increased efficiency, and the users, they save cost and effort. And then there's a lot of like recent rest to talk about AI agents. So Salesforce has it, Einstein, like they have their own Einstein GPT. OpenAI just launched something called Operator. So this is something that people are called next frontier, especially when it comes to business applications. So rather than developing new models, they're saying how I can use these models to for a particular task. So what are AI agents? They are AI-powered autonomous systems. They interact with users, automate workflow, and improve decision making. So I gave an example of somebody making booking on your behalf, but this are very simple examples. You can actually have somebody sending an email on your behalf. Right? You automate the whole sales process. For example, Salesforce is doing it. Google has a couple of projects where you can actually look at your calendar and tell you which kind of booking you should be making and these kind of things, right? So AI-driven decision making. So not only business workflow, you can actually have it for personal use as well. So, and what are the benefits? You automate the repetitive tasks, improve efficiency, and especially when you are interacting with customer, these agents can provide them with quick access. You don't constrain yourself with how many people you have on your staff, because this could be scaled. So this is one of the benefit. So, and then finally, I mean, finance and healthcare, there are some use cases. So you can have fraud detection, investment strategy, portfolio management. In healthcare, again, medical imaging analysis, drug discovery. And there are some examples JP Morgan has, and AI-powered contract analysis, Bloomberg, and then there's a couple of examples, IBM, Watson Health, and then DeepMind have MedPalm. And benefit is again increased accuracy. So in this one, people are now claiming that some of the AI models are better at fraud detection than humans. That humans might miss things. So what are the key challenges? So again, data is one challenge. I talked about it earlier also. Data biases and quality issues. The second part is scarcity in niche domain. For example, let's say most of the documents that have been used are in English, right? I gave one example. And let's say if you're working in a particular domain, you might not have enough public documents available. The second problem is computational cost. And especially if you're developing use cases in the public domain and something that would require explainability, then you have something like this black box problem. So if you're making a decision based on a prediction from AI model, how do you explain that decision to stakeholders, to your superiors, right? So that is something that is an important challenge. And as a researcher, you can try to solve that challenge by building a new algorithm or finding a new way to something called explainable AI. But this is something that's one of the challenge. Ethical consideration, I talked about it, right? Autonomy versus accountability. Should there be a person who is running the model and he becomes responsible, right? Or should it be totally automated AI if you're using it for decision making? So let's say as a person who is deciding which treatment to prescribe as an insurance agent, right? Should a person do that job or an AI system? And if AI makes a mistake, who should be responsible? The other one is human oversight, like biased hiring system. So let's say you have a model that scans through the application system, and then all the applications are coming in your CVs, and it's passing based on the past hires. So if the past hires were using, let's say, degree as an indicator or something else as an indicator, that trend will continue. So you'll have a biased hiring system. So who makes sure that biases are reduced? These kind of things. Right? So AI in decision making. The second ethical consideration is content, like deep fakes, misinformation. So who is responsible for that, right? If you are like allowing users to create content and then share it on social media, after a while, it will be very hard to trace the source. Where does it come from? And then it can amplify. So one of the important aspect is with social media, it can amplify. And the impact could be as bad as change in election because there was a false report and people believe it's true. So who should regulate it? And right, should there be authority that is like verifying a content? Just like food that's out there in the market, you have an authority that says this food has been tested by a particular body. Should there be this kind of content verification authority or not? Then fairness and inclusivity. So as I mentioned, that if that you can blame it on past data, but of course algorithms are the ones that are determining what is being suggested. So you can have this built-in algorithmic discrimination. So you have to make sure that model do not reinforce the stereotype or discriminate against the specific groups. And this is especially important in not only in India, but also in countries where you have multiple races, multiple dimensions where people can actually figure out that, okay, you can see that a particular segment of population is being discriminated against just because they're using wrong data or they're using a wrong algorithm, which was trained on past data. So how do you do it? I mean, you can create an ethical AI framework, and this is where many of the companies are working, or sorry, these standardization bodies are working on. You have bias mitigation strategies, transparency and accountability, explainable AI. You develop transparent AI systems, and making it open source is another way to make sure that the model is improved by wisdom of many rather than one person. That's something that we can do. And then what does the future look like? Again, you have model architecture is improving. You're integrating across multiple industry. You have an end-to-end AI solution. And then this ethical AI innovation, human AI collaboration. So as people start using these models and they get impacted by it, they're going to demand that this becomes more ethical. So they'll go to policymakers, they will talk to their company, who's their client, and they're saying, hey, why is this happening? Can decision making be more fair? Can you make sure that the model is not biased? So these kind of questions come with as it becomes more popular to use AI in the decision making process. So in context of society, I talked about it, job displacement versus creation. How many jobs is creating? How many jobs is replacing? What would happen to people who get displaced? So reskilling will become very important. And this is where the role of academia is important, right? Understanding what is the benefit, how you can make sure that people are trained in using AI, if not building AI models, how to use them. Then again, this thing is access. So whatever was talked about in context of internet, the digital divide, can it be said about AI, ensuring that AI benefit are accessible to all the people? So if you are not on computer, you're creating something that is on paper and pen, maybe you cannot be competing or cannot be as productive as somebody who's using AI model. So should there be a redistribution and these kind of things? And final aspect is like regulations and global policies. Who regulates the model? Right? Who owns the data that's being used to train? Is there a person who will assign a responsibility in case things go wrong, accountability, those kind of things? So I'll stop here, and I think we are out of time, or around 10 minutes for questions and answers.
So there are some questions in chat box.
Okay, so let me. Okay.
So some questions are typed here.
Okay, I can
So
see them. So I'm just going
one
to,
is,
okay. Okay, so would you, so maybe I will go from top. Would you
would
be
you
please?
please, I am
Sure, go
reading,
ahead.
would you please explain geography bias and what are the de-biasing techniques for geography bias?
So the bias comes from, again, training data, and you can see that the most of the models that were developed or that are being developed are in the West, right? So of course you will have more weightage put on the data that was generated there, but again it's less to do with geography than language, and that's why I keep saying this, because it's again as a company, you don't want to restrict yourself to a particular geography, right? When you're writing a scraper, unless the country or geography itself has a restriction on, you cannot download data, you cannot scrape it, and we have to figure out whether it's true for different countries. But usually for scrapers, that was not a like they did not have these restrictions in training data. So there is geography bias, but it exists because of the language. So they were using English, and many of the countries, if you look at the documents that are available online, so geography bias comes because of the language as well as how many companies or how many documents exist online in public domain. So that's how it comes into picture. And how do you debias it? So again, I mean, the easy answer is you fine tune the model by putting more weightage on the documents. But I mean, what kind of weights to use, right? That's the one of the problem. So how do you ensure that the text depth? So I will give you one example. So when I was playing with it, I will use the model, and this is kind of very interesting story to generate a story. So I will say, can you write a story where I on ChatGPT would say, write a story of me spending time with my son on a weekend. So by default, it assumes, because it's trained using data in the West, we are separated. Right? Like there's a case of a divorced couple, and I'm trying to get access to my son on the weekend. So you always say that my son was looking forward to spending time with his weekend. So I had to specifically say that we are living together. We're just talking about a weekend outcome rather than saying spending time on weekend. So that's the kind of bias that you can see that it already exists, because the data that is being fed into it is based on the stories in the description in the Reddit chats. Right? Those sources themselves are biased because the number of users are more from particular background. So it exists, but how to fix it? So techniques exist, but what is the unbiased geography this look like? That nobody knows. Should you weight it by, let's say, number of people or population? Right? So what is the unbiased view? That is unclear. So techniques exist to unbias, like debias it, but what should the ideal look like is still up for debate. So the second one is, how can we evaluate reliability or accuracy of? So again, this is what I asked, like if you know the biases, in some cases, for example, let's say the example I gave you of someone's credit application being rejected. So there that, okay, I mean, let's say ethnicity, being a Hispanic or like black, isn't correlated with your income and education. So maybe we can replace it. So don't put that much weightage on ethnicity and put more weightage on what is the explanatory variables. So for some of them, we know how the accurate model should look like. But for other cases, right, what should an ideal statement look like? How much right wing versus left wing words should be there? The ideal is not clear. So it will take time, and this is where the research will come into picture, because it's not an easy problem to solve because of like the ideal word doesn't like not everybody agrees on ideal word, and this is where the biases in some cases are easy to fix, in other cases not so easy to fix. So for anomaly detection, which are some of the better models and what are the best practice to? So again, it depends on your use case, right? So if you're talking about image versus like pattern matching, so there are standard models, but what you have to worry about is where you're going to deploy it. So let's say you are trying to find out whether a particular part is likely to fail. Let's say this was an actual problem where I was working with like British Airways or Emirates Airlines, and they wanted to make sure that they don't have to store all the parts at all the airports. So how do you predict which part is likely to fail after how many miles of like flying time for a particular aircraft? Because that they can track. So that way they can actually store different parts in different airports, that kind of thing, and when should they do servicing. But there itself, for each of the part, we use different models, because for some of them we have different data. For some of them we had the photo, like there was camera and those kind of things for physical aspect. There we did image analysis. For others, you have different type of data. So then you have quantitative model. There you use different model. So it depends on the kind of like use case or kind of requirement you have. So now, is it possible to build our own AI platform? So by platform, if you mean that model, it's possible right now also. And that's the example I gave. You can use one of the open source models and you can retrain it, and it's called RAG, right? Retrieve augmented this thing. So one of the like good thing about RAG is that it still uses the benefit of pre-trained model, but it puts more weightage on the documents that you are adding now. So it first looks at the your subset of data, and then just to answer the question, and then while generating the text, then it uses the actual the data from earlier model that it was used it. So it is possible to create your own model, but if you mean that creating your own set of applications, that will require a lot more resources. For example, if you're creating a model from scratch, you need to basically scrap all the data and then they redo the work. And I think it's not advisable, because unless you are thinking that there is something that cannot be achieved by just adding an additional data source, that would be actually counterproductive, because one of the benefit of like being a researcher or being in faculty is that you can actually use these tools rather than rediscovering the tool. Businesses are more better equipped to rebuild their own like new models, but when it comes to like academics, it's better if you are just using these tools to create new use cases or creating new models that are serving a particular purpose. So
One more question is there, sir. How do you see the future of Gen AI evolving in the next 5 years?
So again, I mean, it is going to be useful when it comes to like generating text, and I mean, people are actually using it to like for very like innovative users, right? People are creating documents, they are creating marketing material. There are guides available on I think social media where you can uh, type a query, generate the script, then take it to another model. It actually generates the YouTube video. And then, for example, I'll give you this example. So let's say you have a product comparison docs. So you're trying to find a product that you want to buy. What you do is you go to YouTube and basically search for a video. So people are saying that that content is being generated by AI, generative AI, and people or many of the these young influencers, they are making money out of it by just generating a script and then translating it into a video and then uploading it on YouTube. So the like future when it comes to content generation, I mean, this is like a tool that is being used by almost everybody who is in that domain. So this will take off. But when it comes to other usage, it depends on the results, right? For example, if you're going to use it for, let's say, giving advice to patients, doctors and experts, they are less likely to use it because, all right, it's not as good as a as an expert. So again, as a tool, this is going to be useful a lot, but when it comes to replacing an expert, Gen AI is still, I think, a few years away. But the other aspect is the benefit will come from acceptance. Earlier, people were not even, like for example, when calculator was launched, people were worried, teachers were worried that it will actually lead to people, like kids not being smart enough in maths. And I think people or many of the academics still feel that way. So that's the debate that's being played in academia, that should we allow chat GPT and generative AI content when it comes to essay writing, or should it be you should actually say that it's plagiarism, this kind of thing. So I will see how it plays out. But the good thing is that people are starting to use it, and then there is this pushback from the other side saying that, hey, this is not the right use. So it will improve, and the outcome will be that we'll see its adoption in different use cases and different industries. Any other questions? So I mean, so my email address is shared, and then like if you have any questions, you can send an email to me. Otherwise,
Okay,
thank you so much for your time. I know it's quite late.
so you can conclude. So participant, please stop messaging here regarding the test and check the group, WhatsApp group, some instructions. For Google Classroom, you have to use your Gmail ID. So Pinky, you can conclude the session now.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Abhay Gupta, for the insightful and engaging session. Your deep expertise in designing, developing, and deploying Gen AI solution has provided us with a deeper understanding of the methodologies, challenges, and best practices in this evolving field. I'm sure our participants have gained valuable knowledge from your expertise. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Abhay, for accepting our request for giving the